waiting out the start of winter to start your home improvement projects. Well, spring is here, and when it comes to hiring contractors to do the work on your home, a lot of people trip up because they don't know how to protect themselves. Well, that's why we have Lexington, Mass. Attorney Gina Ghioldi with what we need to know. Excuse me. How are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Great.
Where do we start? How can we protect ourselves?
Well, the thing to remember is that if you are hiring a contractor or a subcontractor to work on your home, then you're entering into a contract. And before you do so, you want to familiarize yourself with your state's laws. Each state's different, but there are laws to protect you when you're dealing with contractors.
Even are big jobs and little jobs the same?
Well, the states treat them differently. Here in Massachusetts, any job that's going to be over $1,000 requires a contract. That means the contractor or subcontractor has to give you a very detailed piece of paper that spells out a lot of information to protect you just in case.
Let's talk about some of the other things the law should be very specific about.
Well, the contract should specifically state the contractor's name, address, registration number. You also want to make sure that the scope of exactly what you're going to be doing is very, very clear. What types of materials you've chosen for that particular project. A start date, an end date.
I would assume a total price as well.
A total price, and that's a breakdown as well so that you know what you're paying for.
And this is interesting. You said that a contractor cannot collect more than 1/3 of the total charge up front.
That's here in Massachusetts.
Right.
Each state is different. But yes, if you have a contract for a job $1,000 or over, then they can't take more than 1/3 up front, and they can't demand that final third until after you, the homeowner, are satisfied with what you've done.
So those who do, I mean, that's just a huge red flag.
It's a huge red flag. And remember, even if you have jobs under $1,000, you still should request a contract. It's very important to have everything spelled out just in case things don't go as you planned.
So a couple more of these. A registration notice.
A registration notice, meaning that you understand what's going on with regards to the job being done, and that in fact also you want to take a look about permits. You want to make sure that it's very clear who's going to be pulling the permit. And with regards to that, you may want to do it, think you're saving a little money or help the contractor out. Don't. You want the contractor to pull the permit, because that way, in case something goes wrong, they're the ones on the hook, not you, or if there's an accident when they're doing the work.
Right.
But even though the contractor's pulling the permit, make sure that you go and check that it's actually been done.
What is this 3-day cancellation notice?
Well, if in fact you have a contract with a contractor, you have a right to actually pull back and rescind that contract within 3 days of signing on the dotted line.
You get all the money back you've paid, everything?
It gives you some protection, so in case you change your mind, you can do so. It's almost like when you get a mortgage or a line of credit. Sometimes there are those rights of rescission, so you've got a little waiting period, but you can think about what you're entering into.
A couple other things in terms of the contract, guarantees, warranties, things like that.
That's right. You want to make sure that anything they're promising is very clearly put down in that contract. And something else, too, that you want to think about. It's not required in the contract, but it's a good idea to have. What happens if weather actually delays a project? That happens all the time. And who's going to take care of the debris and the materials that are left out in your yard or in your home? People have a lot of trouble because the contractors leave, the job is done, and they have a whole pile of stuff that they need to get rid of.
And something just basic, I mean, this could go to not just contractors, but anything. Don't sign a form if it hasn't all been filled out.
That's right. Because in particular that these contracts need to have very special provisions, particularly here in Massachusetts. If something isn't filled out, you make sure that you hold off, you get it filled out, and if you don't understand what it is that's on that contract or you have questions, ask an attorney. It doesn't hurt, and it can only help you in the long run.
Well, we talked about the difference between big jobs and small jobs at the beginning, but you suggest even a small job, even under $1,000, get a contract, have it signed, do all this for a small job too.
Absolutely.
It's still your money.
That's right, and you want to protect yourself. And here's the thing, if you've got the right contract in place, then later on if you do have a problem, you've got something to hang your hat on.
We only have about 30 seconds here. We often get into subcontractors.
That's right.
Who's on the hook for that work?
Well, if in fact a contractor doesn't pay a subcontractor or a supplier, you can be on the hook because they can put a mechanic's lien. So make sure you get something signed off by the subcontractors or the suppliers saying you're not on the hook if the contractor doesn't pay.
All right, I think we are out of time. It's so nice to see you.
You too.
For more on this, there's a website, Ghioldi. Law.com.
There it is.
Very easy. Nice to see you, Gina.
You too.
You can see this interview, and while you're there, check out all the day's news and streaming video on our website, NECN.com, or the NECN pages of Boston.com, the online home of the Boston Globe.